Hey everybody, welcome to Obscurities and Miniatures. It is time for another Friday edition of some obscurities in literature. And today I bring you something pretty obscure, I'd say, for most people. That is Mawrth Valliis by Epic. We're going to ignore those spellings. So this was a fun little one, and I do mean little. This is quite the small book. And if you haven't ever noticed, I'm quite a fan of books that don't follow the traditional comic format. And I gotta say, Image is usually pretty good about coming up with funky things. These are funky books in their own right, and maybe we'll talk about them on some other occasion. But just wanted to show that. For size effect, it's a little bit smaller than a typical, or I guess almost the same size as like an American edition of like a manga book. Originally this was Kickstarted, but this is the Image edition. I have not seen the Kickstarter version. I didn't know about that until after the fact. I don't keep up on a lot of Kickstarter stuff these days, especially when it comes to comics. If something really grabs me, I don't know how I end up finding out about it. It just kind of naturally happens through osmosis, maybe? I don't know. But this was one that got my attention because of two facts. Number one, funky sci-fi, which we'll get to in a sec. But number two, it's also technically a wordless comic. You can see the little blurb about this. Fighter pilot running away. They go into their thing. I'm not going to spoil too much of it, but one of the things that first grabbed me was it is proudly presented in its original Martian form. So I have a thing for wordless comics, always have, and I think that's a sign of a really strong storyteller. If you guys have ever seen the old Gone manga, before he showed up in Tekken 3 or got animated as a cute little CG dinosaur, he was in entirely wordless comics. And I've heard there was a book before he was in Gone, but I don't know where my Gone books are, otherwise I'd show them to you guys. But you can see like the first chapter here. Really striking sci-fi look. I love the design of the ships, the fighter pilots in it, and as you can see right away, we've got everything written in Martian. Whether there is some sort of a cipher, I don't know. I've never tried to actually figure that out, but I love the very 80s aesthetic going on there with the fighter jets that they're piloting. In fact, there's a lot of what I feel are very obvious, stylistic choices, very 80s anime look to it. But quite detailed nonetheless. Love all of the various techno stuff laying around. Interesting suit designs. I'm going to try not to spoil what they look like. And when I saw that there was a Brandon Graham blurb on the back cover, I've mentioned quite a few times, I'm quite a fan of Brandon Graham's work. I almost immediately expected, before even opening the book, that we were going to get some kind of schematic in there. And to me, that's a good sign of any nice, well done sci-fi book, is we've got to have some kind of cutout schematics and inventory descriptions. Whether or not you can actually read it is an entirely different subject. Reminds me of those old Space Wars and Weapons type books that Time Life put. I think it was Time Life. I know there was a whole series of British books, but similar thing. We had all those cross-cut sections of spaceships with all of the various levels and things. Like, I used to stare at those before I was a really good reader. I don't know if I am a really good reader still, but used to love looking at that kind of stuff. So I appreciated this a little bit in here. We have some cool fighter pilot scenes, lots of action, some nice schematics. I am trying to be very careful about what I show because there is a big reveal later on, and the ending, I'll be honest, the ending was not what I expected, so I don't really want to spoil it too badly. So we have them crashed on this planet, checking out what happens, and then the rival pilot shows up. Something about these designs also give me flashbacks to my childhood of reading the old Choose Your Own Adventure, being interplanetary spy books. I don't know if that's a deep cut for anybody. I haven't seen those things in decades, but I have a feeling a lot of those books were drawn by artists in either like Italy or the Philippines, just based on the style and what I know of, artists that were working in the comics style medium at that time. They were early 80s releases. Very much reminded me of something like we'd see in the Warren books. But eventually, bad things start to happen. We have the inevitable team up for survival between the two pilots, and then stuff happens that I'm not going to show you. If you want to see it, good luck finding this book. This seems like one of those books that Image tends to put out with an awfully short print run, and hopefully doesn't getting astronomically sky high prices on the aftermarket. I mean, for some people, speculators, I guess that's great. Personally, that's not me. I'd rather have this stuff in as many hands as possible. So, do yourself a favor. Check this one out. See if you can track down a copy. Don't know how many are out there, but like I said, don't want to spoil it. Fun visuals, cool aesthetic, definitely an interesting writing style, which was quite surprising. My only disappointment, I guess, if I really had to pick one, was that all of the sound effects were written out in English. I would have almost rather seen Martian onomatopoeia type, I grew up reading manga at this point. I'm used to seeing all of the things that I might not necessarily have been able to read scattered all over the page, obviously making reference to what was going on, but I also feel like if they did do that, you'd have some issues with just deciphering what's going on. So, fun little book by Epic. I don't think they've done anything else. If they have, somebody is more than welcome to correct me or point me in the right direction, because I had a hard time finding any other information on this. I did see a few copies on Amazon. Seems like it's mostly third-party sellers now, so happy hunting. Hopefully you can find yourself a copy if you're interested. And with that said, then, this has been High Lord Tamberlane with Obscurities and Miniatures, saying thanks for watching, and we will see you back here soon. Bye-bye.